Hey guys, so over the past few years, I've read almost a library's worth of personal finance books. I've moved through the classics like Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and The Psychology of Money. And after synthesizing all the information and takeaways that I've learned, I understand that it all boils down to one key idea. Now, the purpose of today's video is going to be to discuss that one simple idea. And yes, it's easy to understand, it's simple to grasp, but it's much more difficult to execute than you might think. Now, after reading a lot about this idea and thinking a lot about it, I think the best way to begin is with a story. First, let me set the scene for you. It's the late 20th century, and two of the century's most famous writers are at a billionaire's dinner party. Now, the billionaire is interacting with all of the guests, but these two writers are standing across from each other, cocktail glasses in hand, enjoying some nice champagne. They look across the room and they see some of the world's most extravagant, delicious foods laid out on the table. Then their eyes begin to move from the table up to the ceiling, and they begin to look at some of the most beautiful paintings they've seen in their life. It's almost like, the Sistine Chapel. And after this, they take a brief moment, and one of the writers says to the other, "I've heard that this billionaire made more money in a single day than you and me made selling books for our entire lifetimes." So the other writer hears this, and he says something that really illustrates the lesson that I want to teach you today. He says, yes, that's probably true. He is wealthier than us for sure, but we have one thing that he will never have: enough. So let's break down what the powerful lesson from this story is. The main idea is that the more money you begin to make, the more expensive things you begin to want. And this is called lifestyle inflation. Let's say I'm making $90,000 per year and I'm driving a Toyota Corolla. Maybe I'm kind of dissatisfied with it, right? I mean, it's a reliable car, but at the same time, I'm seeing colleagues of mine maybe driving nicer cars. So I patiently wait, and maybe 2 years later, my salary becomes $200,000. At that point, I buy a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW, and for the first few weeks, it's amazing. Maybe I love the color of the car or the fact that in my BMW, you could turn up the volume like this. But after a few weeks, I begin to become almost desensitized to it. I'm used to driving it every single day. And ultimately, it begins to provide me with no more satisfaction and pleasure than my Toyota Corolla once did. So what do? I wait a few more years and then I decide to buy a more expensive car. And this is the cycle of lifestyle inflation. I see a lot of lifestyle inflation occurring, not just with cars, but also with restaurants, with homes, and clothing. But what I really want you to understand about the danger of lifestyle inflation is that as you get nicer and more expensive things, they still bring you no more pleasure than the cheaper, less expensive things that you once had. But at the same time, you've now missed out on the opportunity to invest maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars into the stock market, into real estate, whatever it is, or even just save that money. So when you think about buying nicer things, you aren't just paying the price of the materials themselves, but also the missed out opportunity to invest or to save. So now you're probably wondering, okay, what are you saying? Are you saying I should live like a complete hermit and spend absolutely nothing on new clothes and new possessions? No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you need to get the goalpost to stop moving. You need to figure out what enough looks like for you in the realms of housing, cars, clothing, and material possessions. So maybe come up with a specific dollar value of what that looks like for you and try to stick to those guidelines for as long as possible. Avoid making the mistake that a lot of people make, which is instantly leveling up all of these materials as soon as they begin to make a little bit more money. Instead, be very hesitant about leveling up your lifestyle because you don't want to make the mistake that I've outlined here today. I personally put caps on my spending for housing, food, and clothing, and I try and stick to those guidelines. I've also found it's really helpful to identify the best brands or companies for each of those facets. So for clothing, I'll stick to basic, affordable, yet trustworthy brands with great products that will last a while as well, like Uniqlo and Levi's and those kinds of brands. So if you take away one lesson from this video, have it be this: Define what enough means to you and stick to that guideline. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this style of content, please like, subscribe, comment to let me know that you like it, and I'll see you in the next video.